Hello everybody, this is Justin Case of American Newscape, rejoining our friend Scott Dudley for American Consciousness. Hello Scott, welcome back to American Newscape.
You know, Justin, I'm so glad you're here with us, and I'm glad our listeners are here with us, but especially you, because you modulate your voice so nicely. And I'm like, oh, I need to talk like that. My radio voice. Where's my radio? I'm like looking desperately inside my vocal cords. Where's my radio voice?
Well, with that voice,
yeah.
does come a radio face.
Nowadays, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, all right, Scott, we're here. I'm glad you're here. I hope the dog park people are willing to weigh in via proxy, but are you ready for this? Social media sanity is what I'm calling this thing.
Yeah, they actually pushed a lot of different directions this week, and it was helpful because I was kind of struggling to kind of get the angle, and the shout out to the dog park folks for kind of pushing it and getting it right. So let's see what we've got. Now, I'm going to start you off with a little Plains Indian trivia. So little indigenous Native American stuff. Have you ever heard of counting coup?
I have not.
So counting coup was a warfare technique of the Plains Indians. And what they would do is, instead of killing the combatant, the person they're fighting, they would take a short stick without any weaponization on it and touch the person they were fighting against. And this was called coup, taking coup. And so then they and the idea was they would get away from that safely, right? So that they could talk about it later on, and they could like put a little mark on their counting coup stick. And so counting coup became a way to impact or affect, take away somebody's confidence. That person got close enough to me to touch me with something that wasn't even a weapon and got away safely. So when I'm thinking about the internet, when I'm thinking about social media, when I'm thinking about smartphones, I kind of think about it in terms of counting coup. So in terms of it's not trying to kill us, and we're not trying to kill it, obviously. But we are trying to affect and touch each other and kind of brag about it for bragging rights. And so ultimately what I want to do today, or try to do with you and your wisdom, Justin, is sort through the ways in which we can be affected. I mean, bottom line, correlation is not causation in this world. Just please remember that, everyone. But when smartphones started, late 80s, and social media tagged right behind, the rates of depression and anxiety, not just among youth, but certainly among youth, but among the general population of people, especially who had access to smartphones and social media, began to creep up at a fairly steady rate. That, interestingly enough, we many times will stop and say, well, it was the pandemic's fault. It started way before the pandemic, and it did not abate during the pandemic. So the rate of increase remained steady through the pandemic, and it's remaining steady today. So ultimately, you can't say that social media or smartphones causes depression and anxiety amongst those of us who partake. But you can note that when it came along, the rates started increasing, and they're not going down. So at this point, people are talking about having a crisis in America, a crisis in the United States, where the finger is pointed at social media. It's like the influence of social media is changing who we are. And undoubtedly, that's true to a certain point. So the idea in this show, the idea today, is let's talk about some elements of this. Let's see if there's areas where our listeners may want to defend it better, or may want to draw a boundary, or may just want to touch social media, count coup, be a part of social media without having social media hurt it. So that's really what we're talking about. Let's start with this. We've got a people like me problem. Well, everybody but Justin. Justin, you don't have a people like me problem.
No, because I'm a unique.
People fawn over you.
No, I'm a unique character. So no, I do not have people like me.
But the problem starts deep. So we get lots of reinforcement when we're growing up, when we're really small, that the prettier we are, the smarter we are, the wealthier we are, there's all these components. And if we've got these components in place, then people are going to like us more. And life is given as like a really important thing. So it's kind of given to us at a really early age and reinforced. So if you're the cutest toddler in the room, the room is like loving you, and you're like eating it up, right? You're like, yeah, being cute really does matter in this world, and to a certain extent it does. Social media was able to take that and adapt it. So now when we post something, we get likes. Maybe I don't get likes, but other I've heard that other people get likes and loves and hugs and the whole nine yards.
Well, as I've always said, Scott, you're an acquired taste, and if somebody with a reasonable sense of intelligence can enjoy your post, because your posts tend to be challenging.
I'm the friend who trolls you, and that's your friend.
Well, and I'm the friend that allows your misgivings and your confusion over certain things. So what a perfect pair on social media. But
and it's funny because that's really how I present myself on social media. Is I'm not going to suck up to anybody, and so ultimately I've kind of that's part of my social media coping strategy, if you will. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be authentic, and you're not one of those people who post coffee posts every day. But I'll roll up on my friends who post coffee posts every day and say, this is just like heroin, only it's legal and it costs a little bit less at Starbucks. And they get offensive, they're like, whoa, how could you compare me with that? And I'm like, because look at you, you're posting coffee posts every day. And that's the whole definition of like a relationship with a drug.
Well, yeah, but Scott, I have friends that are passionate about their coffee, as I am. And they post coffee posts, and I'm gracious enough to give them a like. And when I see a cute coffee meme or whatever we call those things, I will message them that, because then they can put it on their page and find fulfillment in that. How could you take that away from them? I don't get it.
I do that, but typically when I send them those memes or whatever they're,
yeah,
I'll send them really dark, sarcastic ones about whatever they're trying to do.
But we learned, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yesterday, California enabled legislation via our great governor that it could become a criminal offense to post something that may be offensive or not totally accurate.
And it's hard for us when we repost stuff. It's really hard to say whether you're reposting a deep fake AI thing.
Well, and who's going to judge it?
Well, but evidently California.
the governor. All right. Well, it's just very curious to me. But you're right. I think there's lots of strategies that people can be happier on social media, and we should delve into that.
Well, so here's a point of consideration. when you're posting things, because all of us are who are on social media, we're posting things for some intent.
Right.
Why am I posting this? Ask yourself that when you're posting something. Ask yourself, why am I posting this? To connect to people, to resonate with people, to inform people. I do a lot of informational posts, or to basically to get likes, to get the reinforcement from social media that I'm a valid person. Because when I put up a coffee, I get 20 likes. Because there's other coffee's a pretty popular topic.
It is. And so is beer, sadly.
Yes, there you go. And I do, the ones that get the most likes for me, my cat pictures. My cat pictures tend to get more than even the dogs. So there you go. But are you posting things because you're hungry for likes? Because you were trained as a little kid that the more you did certain things certain ways, the more people would like you. And that's a valuable attribute. And so we start by asking ourselves that. I've got an acronym for you. Are you ready for an acronym?
I'll try.
FOMO. 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 What is it?
I don't know. It's
You are so immune to this stuff. You know what? You're so lucky. Fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I missed that day in school, so that's probably why.
Yeah. School. The problem with school is nobody's paying attention in school anymore because they're all doom scrolling on their phones. So doom scrolling is actually a term that has come up now for people who cannot down their device because it's feeding constant data to them, and they've got FOMO. They've got a fear of missing out. Did you hear about this interesting piece of California legislation that now may prosecute us for putting up deepfakes?
I didn't.
And if you weren't watching like Twitter when that came out, or a news feed, you missed it.
I did. Yeah. Well,
unless people are going to like you. People like people who are informed. That's fear of missing out in a nutshell. And it gets really hungry. So one of the things, again, it's like step 2 here. Weigh your own fear of missing out energy. I tend to stalk the Vandenberg rocket launch Facebook. And that's because where we live, I can see the launches from Vandenberg. And right now, SpaceX is it's turning into every day as launch day. And it used to only be like 5 or 6 times a year. And now it's almost every week. And so I'm watching because my fear of missing out is that I'm going to miss a really cool launch with a great light show and all the cool stuff that I'm in it for, because I'm not paying attention to the site. That's a classic example. Now, I'm not staying up all night with my phone on.
Oh God.
Fortunately, the launch notifications go up at least 3 or 4 days prior to launch. But if I were looking for other things, that fear of missing out energy can keep you up too late, can keep you up all night, can really begin to distract. You're a dinner time conversation with your partner, and there's a little lull, and you pick up your device and turn it on and check. And check and see what's happening with, for me, Michigan State Spartan basketball or football. I'll be like, okay, let me find out if we've got some new recruits on campus. Let me see what's going on with the game plan for this Saturday. And if it's too intense, then it's interfering with the rest of your life. So do a FOMO check. Do a check of how hungry you are for the information and how comfortable you are putting your device down. I know personally. Do you scroll all night, or for me, basically when the sun goes down, my phone goes on the charge, and that's the last I see of it until morning.
Well, I shouldn't probably even be involved in this conversation because I have no social media apps on my phone. Let's
Nice.
clarify.
Do you go through your computer then?
I use social media as a business tool, and I also use it to check on friends, which was very handy during the pandemic.
Yes, I agree.
And, it allows me to not keep a database of birthdays. It's like I wish you a happy
That's true.
birthday on your birthday. And so I make a quick pass through, and I'll make a couple comments and likes just to kind of check with friends of mine and family. I'm still here. And then I post things for business. But see, that is so impersonal to me that if you like it, if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. As long as you're not vulgar, your comment's good with me. And even personally, if you don't like something, I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
Well, they're trying to teach us lessons on this device because ultimately the companies that run social medias don't want us to be buttheads. and so there's like a commandment that says if you don't like what you see, just scroll down a little bit. You'll see something else. Really, oddly, this is kind of part of the problem because, take for example, X, formerly known as Twitter. Great information site. And honestly, 5 years ago, it was like the most fun place in the world to watch the Oscars because you were like sitting in a living room with 40,000 very clever people. And they were just hammering in real time. They were just throwing up comments and responses and links to things that were just incredibly topical and blazingly funny. And that was a very, very cool app. That was very cool stuff. It's, ex Twitter has gone like dark, has gone off the deep end in terms of, and because here's what's happening. And Facebook does this too, and Instagram does this, YouTube does this too. Each of these applications has an algorithm that determines what you see on your wall. So what you see on your wall used to be, and for Twitter, for example, used to be pretty much self-determined because you only saw things from that you followed. They had another category for you where you saw some other things, but mostly it was stuff that you followed, especially in the following category. And now it's completely random. But it's not random. It's designed for you. And it's designed to impact who you are and change how you believe the world is happening towards the people who have designed the application. So they want you to believe and act a certain way, just like your mom and dad, just like your teachers, just like cops. Everybody wants you to conform and act within a certain framework. The app people are no different. So you take Twitter, where Elon has every single opinion in the world because you've got a gazillion people posting on Twitter, and it covers the entire spectrum of anything. So you've got an infinite amount of material context. And so all you need is a smart enough algorithm to brain mess with the person who's the user at the user end. So that algorithm has to figure out who you are, what you're glancing at, what you like. I mean, one of our most common experiences, I think, universally, is having a conversation with somebody about a product and then getting that product in our ad stream, either on Facebook or on social media somewhere else, like 2 hours later. And you're like, how did you know I was talking about this with someone? And the honest thing is that your phone's tracking, your conversations and stuff. But the trick to social media is they want to basically count coup. They want to come and touch you. They don't want to kill you. They don't want to destroy you because you're the consumer. You're the one making the money. But they want to touch you and impact you in how you're living your life and how you're feeling. Some of that may not be healthy for you. And that's really the spot where you want to think about how this may be impacting you and whether or not you can withstand, or whether you need to back it off, whether you need to have a boundary, or whether you just need to look at, like, for example, on my Twitter feed now, I pretty much can disregard most of the stuff on that feed because it's all junk that the algorithm is feeding me, designed to make me feel a certain way. And the minute I figured that out, it was like, oh, okay, I'm good. Right. You know, I was getting like all up in the air. It was like, oh my goodness, this, oh my goodness, that, and you know, outraged and irritated, and those are the type of emotions that end up taking their toll on people. So now I'm just like, well, he's just feeding me crap.
Well, you know, that's all true, Scott, and you know, people with that have a tendency to be morose. I don't like to use the depressed word, but depressed, and certain topics trigger them. On social media, they need to be careful. And let's not talk about a political party, but if they're very vested and passionately vested in the campaigns that are going on now, there's a chance that they won't turn out.
Wait, Justin, there's campaigns going on?
There are. There's a chance that people will not be, that will be horrifically depressed after the result. But what they're setting themselves up for now is in their posting and in their activities and in what they're reading, they're attracting like-minded people to them. And those people are morose or marginally depressed, and they're putting fuel on the fire for that person. And if you were a friend of mine going through that, I would probably suggest you take a back seat to that, because it's something that, yeah, there's something that we can't do anything about, but what you don't want to do, you have to be careful what type of like-minded people you're surrounding yourself with.
So I've actually got an interesting rule on that one that I use personally, and it's been really helpful to me, and that is I kind of call it my arm span rule. And that is, I am going to care about the things within my arm span that are affecting my existence. And that's where I'm going to put my energy in terms of managing my emotional state, in terms of managing what I'm going to get like all up in arms about, et cetera, et cetera. So honestly, it's like the stuff that's happening in Gaza may be horrible, but I can't do much about it. And so walking around in a state of agitation and despair and hurt isn't beneficial to Gaza, and it's not beneficial to me. You know, the immigrant crisis. I've got nothing going on in my arm span that suggests that immigrants are good, bad, or indifferent. And why am I that concerned about it that I'm going to walk around short of breath and a red face, more than it already is, to trying to cope with my inner rage that immigrants are taking over the country and doing horrible things to everybody. You know, if it's not within my arm span, then I'm going to let it go. I may take it under advisement. I may be curious about it. I may do additional research, but I'm going to disengage emotional reactions, because I need to be worried about the stuff that's right here, right now. And if I spend my energy on that stuff, then I tend to have a lot more sense of empowerment in terms of how I can manage my life. So that's the rule, the arm span rule. Write that one down, because the next time you hear something that's out of the Detroit Tigers are fighting for a wild card playoff spot in baseball right now. It's like they're like the 73 Mets. It's incredible. They're having this amazing. They traded many of their good players at the deadline, and all of a sudden they got hot. And it's crazy cool. And I have to moderate my passion. And because I can be like appreciative of it and go, this is really neat, and I can kind of be happy to go along for the ride. But if I start like putting my last breath of love and hope into that thing, well, I'm not the Detroit Tigers. I'm not taking the mound tonight. I've got very little impact in terms of how my rooting interest is going to change the score of tonight's game. And so knowing that, I can kind of ease back, relax a little bit, that emotional energy, and still be there, still be present, still love, but with the right amount of detachment that I'm not like going to be depressed for a month if somehow their mission to get this playoff spot falls short. Man.
Well, it's like, another litmus paper test is if you're lying in bed at night worrying about the Detroit Tigers or the Dallas Cowboys, I think you need to do some self-assessment.
If they'd only put Sweeney in at shortstop. I know he hits right-handed, and I know that doesn't really make sense, but he's really good against this pitcher, and you're doing analytics in your head at 2 a.m.
Well,
that's a thing.
And the perspective is if you think if your life evolves around your sports team and you think your sports team did something or just the worst move or decision in history, harken back to the Boston Red Sox trading Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees.
One of the ways to de-escalate stuff is to look at the outliers, right? The
Right.
things that happened, the very worst and the very best of things, and just be somewhere in between that.
Well, exactly.
No, I actually learned this. One year, I can't remember. It was a Super Bowl. It was a while back. And my wife said, "Hey, let's go to Sunbeam Lake and go fishing." And I was like, "It is Super Bowl Sunday." Yeah, but it's a nice day. Let's just go. And I went. And that was the day I learned that me watching a game did not affect the outcome at all. Because I used to think, somehow that by watching it, I was making it happen, right? I was like pushing through the fourth quarter drive or whatever. And nothing could be farther from the truth. And that's the same thing with social media. It's the same thing with, Gaza or the immigration crisis. Either one, it's like your rooting interest, your desire to make things better has a super small footprint, even if you're really politically engaged, and certainly just doom scrolling on social media and just flipping through your phone and going, and every time you like a post about one of your care about issues, the algorithm's going to feed you 80 more.
Oh, absolutely.
The algorithm's like, yeah, I got your attention now. Look at this one. Look at that one. And it just gets. Here's something we do on social media that's kind of interesting because we do it in real life. And yet social media is a really good place to do it because you can do it without being seen, you can stalk. And it's called taking other people's inventories. Have you ever heard the term?
No, I haven't, except when I worked in the grocery store and we used to take inventories.
Nice.
Yeah.
You would count everything.
Yeah, other people.
So taking other people's inventories is actually borrowed from 12-step parlance. So it's in framework of the 12 steps of recovery or the 12 steps of Al-Anon, and it talks about how easy it is to look at somebody else and say, you know what's wrong with them? X, Y, and Z. And they do this and they do that and they do this and they do that. And the irony of it, right, is that we are so blind to our own shortfallings. And the more we focus on external things, the more we focus on somebody else's problems, which we're really good at seeing, by the way. We're experts at detecting people's shortcomings because it makes us feel better about who we are. Yeah, well, at least I'm not like them. And social media takes advantage of this. So now I can scroll through people's stuff, look at their posts, and I can just sit there in judgmental glory because I'm smarter than that. I'm cuter than that. Well, not that one. I have greater insight. However I want to pick my spot, I can pick my spot. and put that false superiority because I'm taking their inventory and judging them based on a sentence or based on a post. And social media knows this, and social media is more than happy to give you that venue.
Well,
So if you want to like look over people's shoulders and judge them, social media is marvelous at that.
Scott, theoretically I agree with you, but you, and I believe both of us, do not live our lives that way. I don't believe you and I believe we have superiority over anybody, nor do we waste much time judging others.
I agree, but I think that's personally, that's taken me a lot of work, and it's still something I have to turn on or turn off, because like I don't know, I'll see somebody with some life habits that have led to negative, what I would call negative consequences. So I don't know. Let me throw something out there really easy. A person who sits on their couch all day and eats Doritos and donuts.
Delicious.
And now they're 80 pounds overweight, and they're experiencing secondary health problems, and all of the self-esteem that comes from how people look at you when you're big, like big wide. And because it's subtle, but it's there, micro expressions, the this, the that, people rolling up on you and saying, I used to be big too, but then I found keto. And you're like, what? It's like, why did I deserve that level of scrutiny and that level of judgment that this isn't just okay, or this isn't my choice or my life or whatever. It is easier said than done. And I try to be non-judgmental. I've really tried hard, and I'm fortunate that I worked in places where people were in recovery for a variety of things, because to me it really helped teach me some humility. It was like, these people are so much more courageous and tougher and smarter than I am. I'm just lucky. I didn't get some of those cards. And those cards are really what challenge them to be their greater selves, on the one hand. On the other hand, I didn't get the cards. And so I can't sit there and judge somebody who just relapsed, or somebody who's having a really hard day with their emotions, or somebody who believes in a whole different reality that nobody else can understand. And that taught me to kind of sit back and just allow people to be themselves, with one exception. I've got a bias. I'm going to go public right now, so everybody. I really have an issue with people that punch down, and I actually think that you do too, Justin. No. So people who use their power to hit people less powerful than them.
No.
Those people to me are just bullies, and I don't mind, going after bullies, because somebody needs to.
Oh, I agree. I spent my life doing that. So, but I think you've made a bad assessment. But I'll accept it. That's your opinion. Once again, maybe not warranted, but I'll give you your opinion, because I'm gracious.
You are great. Well, and super intelligent. I mean, that is really what sets you apart. Your ability to just handle the ground ball, no matter how hard it's hit, no matter where it's bouncing, you just like whip out the glove and it's like, boom, throw it to first base, and here's what this means.
Well, and yeah, but let's be accurate. I've had ground balls that have hit me in the groin and gone up my chest and hit underneath my chin and wound up in my glove, and as I laid on the ground crying, I didn't get the ball thrown to first base, but I got back up and tried again.
One of the things you and I have to balance on the show is our wisdom born of experience.
Yes.
Versus what Lao Tse also said, was that people who don't know, people who know don't talk.
Generally. But there are people, as you have shared what you know to try and help others. And I think I've tried to do that too, whether it's coaching or living my life, even if showing a bad example of what you should not do.
I loved coaching because they were there voluntarily, and I could say, hey, just drop and give me 20. and and you don't get that in real life. So, you know, if you do that as like a management employee, you're going to get lawsuits.
Yeah, you are.
But if you do that with a youth football league, you're good. So I liked coaching a lot. But back to where we're at. Be aware. So one of the things you can be aware of is how much secondary gratification you get from looking over people's shoulders and feeling better because you're not as bad off as them.
I don't know. You know, I've always respected the janitor and the man that's you know, the homeless person that's doing the best that they're doing the best that they can with the cards they've been dealt. And I've never felt that superiority over them, nor do I believe anybody should.
One of the that I would say is that this is more common when people are more fragile themselves. So, you know, you're one of those people who are really kind of grounded in your self-esteem.
Yes.
You are not lacking for personal confidence.
That's true.
If I may go out on this limb.
I'm not saying I'm a narcissist, but maybe I am.
No, it's a little bit different. You know, and I've got kind of the same thing. I've got kind of a self-assurance and to me I'm self-assured because I put in the work.
Yes.
You know, I've done the heavy lifting to get to the point where I kind of know who I am and know how I relate to the rest of the world. You know, and I'm not going to be too shaken in that. But for people who are not quite there, this to people's inventories, this natural tendency to look at people who are not quite on your level in various things and draw kind of the conclusion that makes you a better person is really subtle and really, you know, you don't do this. It's really micro level stuff, but I think people should be aware of it. So I think if you're on social media a lot and you're getting a sense of hey, at least I'm not that depressed, that's probably not a real healthy place. You know, that's probably not it.
Well, certainly.
How much is too much? For you, obviously, you're just you just chip away at social media. You're a chipper.
Yeah, I'm a drive-by.
Yeah, exactly. And that why is that the right level for you? Why not just do it 4 hours a day?
Well, because I don't find much of it redeeming. I don't tend to learn a lot, and it's just not fulfilling. That's why I don't. You know, I picked up social media because friends are saying, "Hey, with what you're doing, you need to be doing this for your business." And I went into it kicking and screaming, and I lots of times, you know, when I'm responding to 500 comments because I feel obligated to respond to people that comment, I begrudge the fact that I'm in that I've fallen into that rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's time and effort.
Yes.
And 383 of those comments are mine, so there you go. because my broken way of relating to social media is to think that it's like corresponding with letters. And so when somebody puts up a post, they're talking to me because I'm their friend. And I'm trying to make sense of it, and I'm trying to let it reflect off of me and say, well, this is really interesting, but you know, this or that or the other, or yeah, I totally agree, or, you know, however, but I'm responding as a friend and then writing like 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not the way people do this, right? It's not very usual.
Well, then I'm guilty of posting stuff, wondering what kind of comment I'm going to get from one person, which is Scott Dudley. So I actually post things that are designed for you, Scott.
Nice, and I appreciate that because to me, the value of social is getting a diversity of opinion that forces you to consider other things, to get you outside of your silo. And the problem with social media is you can silo yourself so easily. And social media with the algorithm is more than happy to do that with you. So how do you maintain diversity? How do you maintain a room full of, that's what I like about the dog park. It's a room full of different people. It's not people that you've chosen. It's not people that have decided to follow you. It's people who have their own life experiences, their own generational stuff from their age, their own opinions on stuff. And you have to walk into that room, and A, you have to be strong enough to have your own stuff. B, you have to be respectful enough to hear their stuff. And to me, that's really kind of like one of the missing aspects of community nowadays. We don't do enough of that.
Well, I agree.
It's too like-minded. And COVID didn't help that, I would agree.
But look, the idea that you've drawn on the dog park and you have recognized what it is, and it's its own form of, let's not call it social media, but social consciousness.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's again, what I call it is community. When I talk about community, I'm talking about a room where diversity can be heard and respected, and good consensus can sometimes come of it. Sometimes you're going to be in a spot where, you know what, I can't lean into this because it's the opposite of what I believe or my integrity or whatever. And that's okay. And then you say to that person, that's cool. Gotcha. Just let me lean into where I lean into, and you as long as you're not, punching holes in my tires, we're good. So for you, how much is too much is not very much. I have a confession, and part of this is my own personal, just curiosity. And part of this is my ability to process information in written form really quickly. And so I can jump on social media and cover a lot of ground very quickly, and because it's just my skill set, it's my talent spot. And so social media has always been a really cool place. MySpace, I within a year of pimping out my MySpace to be like just awesomely cool, I had 500 friends that I'd never ever known before, who were all beautiful, marvelous, interesting people. And I have not been able to duplicate that with other forms of social media, sadly. But the possibility of that, the possibility of real connection, is enough to keep me coming back.
Well, yeah, but
and so I go in, but part of it is I go in with knowing that my armspan rule, knowing that I'm not going to get too engaged with things that are out of my immediate control.
Well, and you really haven't done anything to build your community. You're just part of your social media existence.
Yes. I'm not a community owner. Usually I'm the one sitting at the back of the room, off task and off topic, whispering to a friend.
Well, and I accept all friend requests, and some of them are foreign agents, and then I quickly get rid of them. But I don't judge. If somebody says, hey, let's connect, I will connect. I will also, when I consider it risky or that person's behavior is risky, I will disconnect.
Yeah, that's and that's okay. So that's one of the things. If you find that your social media is causing emotional distress, and it's because of some of the intensity of the relationships, that's ghosting. Have you ever heard of ghosting, the term?
Yes, I have heard of the term.
I was a ghoster before ghosting was even a term.
Before ghosting was cool.
Because it just made sense to me that if I wasn't nourishing this person and they weren't nourishing me, which is to me what friends are all about. It's like mutual support, aid. Then why are we just here hurting each other? Why are we here just throwing rocks at each other? And I think I probably tried to sort this out a couple of times. Like I would message the person and say, hey, I noticed that we're struggling. I noticed that there's conflict. I noticed that this and that, and I want to make it. I just kind of want to touch base with you and see where you're at and stuff like. And it never worked. Right. It's like changing somebody. It's like changing somebody's mind on social media. It just doesn't happen.
Well, I've had friends of 20 years that I basically told them that I was dropping them as a friend and seeing their posts because it had gotten I considered it toxic, which I felt
Yeah,
I owed them the honesty of
which
that.
is fair. It's fair feedback. I've never gotten a good discussion out of that.
Well,
I tried that.
I have not either, and typically they're very hurt that I could do such a thing.
Yeah, it gets personal, and then sometimes it doubles down. That it's funny because we're on the shadow of something I was thinking about doing a show on, and that is the ways that we trick ourselves, cognitive dissonance, the way that we use our thinking skills to create little traps that allow us to go farther into something that's not working than we probably should.
No,
And
absolutely.
so we'll put that on the shelf, and maybe we'll take it down and dust it off next week. But I thought that this online stuff would be a good place to kind of stop there. So here's another kind of thing, and Justin, from what you said, this is not your thing, but there are people who online is now real life, and the time that you're not online actually has an acronym. It's AWK, stands for away from keyboard. And so some people have flip-flopped, so social media, online stuff, gaming is not like a pastime or something that you do when you've got a free 5 minutes while you're waiting in line somewhere. It's something that you do the majority of your time. And now it starts eating up time that you could do other things like pay your bills, exercise, talk to people away from keyboard. And I think that that's something that everybody has to kind of be aware of is how deep am I in? And really look at it in terms of, think about it like almost like calories. How much of this stuff am I eating? How much of it's junk food? And how much of it's just rotting my brain? And if the answer is it's really entertaining, junk food tastes great. It's delicious. It gives you all sorts of good, happy brain chemicals that say you should just eat this all the time because you're happier now than you've been in a week. But it's not good for you. And I think we need to draw the same line with our online lives and say, this may feel good, this may seem to be good, but is it really in the long run helping me? And ultimately, if you're waking up at night and worrying, or you're feeling uncomfortable in certain situations, or as you were suggesting earlier, you start losing hope, you start losing energy, you start losing engagement and motivation. The things that you used to like to do no longer give you pleasure. Those are warning signs. Those are red flags. And if there's an online component to this, then just managing that may be the difference maker.
It could be. The other key indicator is if you're doing any of these things and you're losing track of time and you catch yourself saying, oh my, I didn't realize it's such and such o'clock. That's a sign of obsessive behavior that's getting you away from reality.
Yeah, well, no, for some people, this is the reality now. Somebody just binged watched all of our episodes,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's now 2:30 in the morning, and they're finally getting this one, and they're like, "Why didn't you tell me this first?"
We did. Therapy. You need therapy. Don't binge watch this.
And so ultimately, no, I wouldn't either, because to me, if you binge watch, your brain isn't able to process the information orally as thoroughly. Your brain can only hold like 7 words in it before it has to decide whether it's going to move it to long-term memory or dump it. And while it's doing the dump, or while it's doing the long-term, we're still talking.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, you don't learn as much from listening to stuff as you think you could or you would. let alone if you did 10 shows in a row. That would be just a disaster.
Well,
You know, we'd say something really cool in the first show. I'm sure we said one cool thing in the first show, that you completely forget by the middle of the second show. It would be gone. And so that's why you don't want to engage that way.
well, you know, people that do follow these shows, they find it a safe place to be. You know, they either a distraction, they pick up 5 minutes here, come back and pick up 5 minutes there. For you and I think I certainly walk away from each show with probably one or two things to ponder, or a new perspective on something that I find interesting.
You know, for sure. When I go to the dog park and start talking
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, oh, I hadn't really thought about it that way. And so ultimately, while I'm thinking about the show, I'm really thinking about, I'm not sure what the listener or anybody else is going to have a value here. So let me try and get to as many things as clearly as possible. And then maybe there's one or two that somebody's going to jot down and say, oh, you know what? This is probably not such a bad idea.
Well, I agree.
I like that better than the prescription model. This is what's wrong with you. This is what you need to do.
Yeah, do as I say.
I never responded really well to that. So that's just part of it's my own bias about, you know, advice giving is not such a wise thing.
Right. Somebody saying to me, this is what you need to do, is a trigger.
Well, ultimately, if I'm doing that, I'm unburdening my conscience. It's got nothing to do with you. I'm just, you know, forgiving myself for impacting the world that way. And it's really an inner relational thing.
Wow.
And nobody follow, and advice following is like next to zero. The Detroit Tigers have a much better chance of getting in the playoffs than anyone does of following anybody else's advice.
There you go. Well, give us.
So I think that's it. That's the list. You want to look at your time. You want to look at the value of it. You want to look at your level of emotional engagement. It should not be agitating you. Right. You should not be aggravated. You shouldn't be angry. These are not good emotions. Save them for the valuable stuff. Save them for like your family and your cats and you know, paying your light bill this month. You know, because those are the things right here. Those are the things in your scope of control. Those are the things where those emotions can be really useful because they can be motivated and they can be motivating change. But if you're sitting there scrolling on something that's happening on the other side of the world or that's happening in some politician's head somewhere and you're getting worked up about it, that's empty working up. That's you're from my opinion, you're misspending your emotion. And some people can do that and they're good. And that's fine. But many people get fatigued, wore out. Solving unsolvable problems is not usually good for somebody's motivation, hope, joy, spirit of living, any of that stuff. It'll wear you out. And so ultimately you have to decide, this social media is really cool. Is it wearing me out? And if it's wearing me out, then what do I need to do about it, right? And putting up boundaries. Right. When the sun goes down, my phone goes down.
Yes. You know, and that's one thing you taught me was the orange screen trick on the phone.
The orange screen trick.
So don't think I don't listen to you and enact things that you suggest. But, you know, another thing people need to be cognizant of, if you feel your time is not worth anything, and you'll hear people saying, well, my time's not worth anything. Your time is the most precious thing you have. It's how you use it.
Time and attention equals love. Whatever you're spending time and attention on is what you value in this lifetime more than anything else. And so if you look at that list of stuff that you're spending time and attention on, and you're like, That's not a very good list.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
then it's time to kind of take charge of that and say, okay, well, can I make the list better? Are there things that I would be better served? Because, you know, again, you and I are kind of on the backside of stuff now. And one of the things that being on the backside of life really lets you know is that this stuff's over in a minute.
Yeah.
You know, you're here, you're born, you live, you die. And moment by moment, how do you want to capture that? How do you want it to be valid? How do you want to be, at the end of the day, satisfied? Not just that you were super productive or that you worked extra hard. I mean, those are kind of good things, and some people really do benefit and gain from that. Other people probably should take a little bit of a break. But how do you feel at the end of the day about who you were? You know, I before the show today, I run home. We've got a kitten that's being milk fed, so I've got to make the kitten's milk, and my wife says, "Honey, your kids outside are asking for food," so I got to like run to the fridge and grab the mealworms and go out and feed the mockingbirds, who've been, you know, eating mealworms from us for, you know, generations of mockingbirds. But at the end of the day, those are the things that count to me.
Yes.
You know, the mockingbirds just got out of their molt, so they are beautiful right now. They've got all fresh feathers. They're the ones I've been feeding mealworms to are like as big as eagles now. They're huge. And they like me. You know, they're like, "Hey, dude, feed me." But they say it respectfully. And to me, that relationship and that sense of caring for something that I could be punching down on, right? I could be like, "You birds are annoying. You sing all night, and so I'm gonna, you know, make life hard for you." But I'm not. I'm like, no, you know, I'm gonna take care of you because we're all here together. We're sharing the neighborhood, and you guys can come up with song lyrics that I in 1,000 years of songwriting I'd never come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. You go outside and you hear, "What kind of bird?" "Oh, that's just a mockingbird being different."
That's a mockingbird doing a grackle.
Right. But you know, that is fulfilling. You know, we've rescued baby birds, and they've, you know, gone on to live lives, but they don't go far, and they bring their friends back.
Yeah, they do. Now, there is really good research that just the songs of birds outside of your house significantly helps, almost as much as taking a multivitamin, reduce depression. Yeah, and the guy who figured it out accidentally, but ultimately the reality is that may be okay for, and that's better for me than doom scrolling on social media.
Absolutely.
I'd rather sit outside and listen to those guys sing than sit here and worry about things that are outside of my control.
Well, that's because
I think that's the,
you find enjoyment in that. And if you didn't enjoy milk feeding that kitten, you wouldn't be.
well, okay, I've left that to my wife, but I'm the one who has to make the milk. That's my job.
All right, Scott. Why don't you leave us with one gem that I will remember next month, and we'll put this one in the bag.
Sure, let's do this. Personal inventory. Sit down and ask yourself, what is your relationship with social media? What is your relationship to the internet? And then if you find yourself wanting or lacking in there, stop and take charge. Stop and say, this is my relationship. I can be equally empowered. I can go in and take from you what serves and values me without being beaten up or subtly influenced or challenged by the FOMOs of the world and the things that are happening that are so exciting that you just can't miss them. And realize that their goal, you know, the whole reason they invented smartphones was to get you to have a smartphone as a best friend. That smartphone knows me. Every notification I get is valuable. I joke that Timu likes me more than my kids because Timu texts me like 8 times a day.
It knows what you need.
My kids are like twice a week, maybe.
Maybe.
But that's the inventory you need to take. That's what you want to walk away from today, is that there is a relationship going on. And a relationship unexamined is a relationship that may have elements of harm in it. And so just stop and examine it. Check it out, see what you think. And whatever you do, don't let your limitation of social media get in the way of watching this show on YouTube every single week.
Well, right. I agree, but I want you to find something fulfilling when you come around, and come back, because its attitude won't change any.
We are here for you.
Well, we are, and we are consistent, if nothing else.
Indeed.
All right.
Justin, thanks for having me. Thanks for holding it down on your end, and we'll do this again, right?
Right, we'll do it again. And thanks, Cousin Scott. Hey, everybody, this has been Justin Case and Scott, bringing you American Consciousness. Thanks for joining us. Remember, additional information and links provided in this video is read more. Today is the day to subscribe to this channel. Please learn more about Scott Dudley when time permits.